Hello, welcome or welcome back to Reads of an Apple. My name is Stacy, and today we are here, as you probably have seen, for the mid-year freakout book tag. I'm pretty excited. This is also the second book tag for the month of July. I typically try to stick to one, but I figured the mid-year freakout is like something extra fun to do because it's really focusing on what you've already read and then a little bit of what's to come in the future. It's one of my favorite tags to watch because I just enjoy seeing how people kind of assess where they are in the middle of the year, and I just kind of find it interesting, what books they think are their favorites, or I don't know. This is a tag that I just find really interesting. I also do want to mention before we get through the books, so usually I don't like to re-mention books that, I try not to re-mention books throughout book tags over and over again. I try to just mention them once unless it's something that I just really can't get over or just really, really want to push on you. However, because this is specifically a book tag talking about books that I have read earlier this year, my rule is off the table for this specific book tag. So, throwing that out there in case you've seen some of my other ones and you're like, you've talked about these books before. That's because this video is the exception to my rule, and if I do an end of the year book tag, that one will also be as well. But we'll see when we get to the end of the year if that happens, what happens. So let's just jump into them. We have 13 questions. So question number 1, best book that you've read so far. Now typically when I answer this question, I pick one for each subcategory, but I was like, nope, I gotta narrow it down to one. And the reason I chose this one is because this put me in the biggest book hangover, and really the biggest book hangover I've had in a while. And so that kind of gives it away there. If you've seen my other videos, but it's Grim and Barrett, Juliet Cross, the 6th and final book in the Stay a Spell series. We do have a spin-off series coming, but I could not read anything for over a week after I finished this because I just didn't know what to do with my life. I didn't know how to handle not having Stay a Spell anymore. I really, really wanted to reread it, but I was like, don't reread it. You literally just read it. You have other books to read. So instead I read nothing. I should have just reread it and then I could have moved on. But you know, hindsight is 20/20, as they say. But this was everything I could want. This book just really, I don't know, if I think Juliet Cross as a person as I kind of know her, this book I feel like is her. All we need is a little bit of dragons, but this book made me swoon. This book was sweet. We had a little bit of angst. I loved it. It was bittersweet though, because the series was over. We don't have our Savoy sisters anymore. They all have their HEAs. Oh, I just can't, but I'm so excited for what she has next. I know she's switching gears and going more fantasy and maybe dark fantasy, which I'm excited, but if you haven't read Stay a Spell, I highly, highly recommend this. This is like a rom-com-y paranormal series. I love it. It's really hard to choose. This is probably my favorite book, but my second favorite book is probably the first book in the series. Maybe? I don't know. It's hard to rank them. But the first book also sticks out in my mind a lot, but it could be because it was the first book. So, yeah, I'm gonna stop gushing about Juliet and this book, but I had to give it to Grim and Barrett as best book I've read so far, and it really wouldn't surprise me if it wins my best paranormal of 2023. So just throwing that out there. Now, question number 2 is the best sequel you have read so far. Now, I know it could be like a book in a series, like Grim and Barrett could work for it because it's a sequel to in the series. It's book 6. But I was like, no, I'm going to force myself to pick a book 2. And if I have no book 2s that were absolutely amazing, then I'll move on from there. But I do have a book 2 that was absolutely amazing. And that is Magic Claims. Now, technically, this is what, book 12 in Kate Daniels, if not more, if we include all of the books in the universe. But this is book 2 in the Kate Daniels Wilmington Years series. And this was supposed to be a novella. It ended up being a full novel. And I love it to pieces. This book, more than the other books that I've read from Alona Andrews, every time Curran called Kate his wife in this book, I lost it. I was just like so swoony. I love that. I don't know why. It just really hit me in this book when he would talk to other people and be like, oh, my wife, Kate. And I'm just like, oh, Kate's his wife. And they've been married for several books now. This isn't something new. But for some reason, it just really hit me in this book. And this was kind of, I don't know. I feel like this book specifically was really powerful in the storyline of Kate and Curran. And, after the end of the big series, we had book 1, and they're trying to be normal. They're trying to give Conlin, their son, a more normal childhood and not feel all the pressures of the power that Kate and Curran have. But in this book, they're kind of forced to realize, like, they have this power. And people are either going to abuse the fact that they're intentionally not using their power, or abuse the fact that they're not going to use their power because they don't want to step back into those powerful roles. But it's the good old saying, the best people to put in power are the ones who don't want it. And I cannot wait to see what happens next in this series. I mean, it's Alona Andrews. They're one of my favorite writing duos, authors. Their world building. I'm like so excited to talk about this book. Like, I can't even. My brain is running faster than my mouth. If you did not know, Alona Andrews is a writing duo that is a husband and wife team, Gordon and Alona. And their world building is impeccable. The way that they meld paranormal and fantasy elements in this urban fantasy setting, and they weave in different mythos, like we're talking all different mythos and cultures, and their books are absolutely phenomenal. And so I had to give it to this one because it was even better than my very high expectations for this book. And that's all really I can say about it without just gushing on and on. As you can tell, this is also the Gush Fest. Oh my gosh. Gush Fest for favorite book so far. Okay, so on to question number 3. A new release you haven't read yet but want to. So my notes have 1, but when I made my notes a couple weekends ago, however, I have started one of them, so I'm just going to touch briefly on that, and that is The Beauty in Scars by M.L. Philpott. This is the 3rd book in her Fractured Ever After series. I did start this last night, though, so it's not finished, but I have started it, and I already am obsessed, and I'm only 20% of the way in. But the other one that I still have not started yet, but I have checked out on KU since the day it dropped, is Craving in His Blood by Zoe Draven. This is the 2nd book in her Brides of the Kylar series. I am a huge Zoe Draven fan. I have read through, I think, like 90-something% of her backlist, so I'm excited for a new drop. I just haven't quite gotten around to picking this one up yet, but I need to ASAP. On to number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. So, I mean, what pops off in my head the most is It Had to Be a Duke by Vivian Lorette. This is the first book in her new series, The Liars Club. Vivian Lorette is one of my all-time favorite historical romance authors. And I'm super excited to start this new series. She just wrapped up The Mating Habits of Scoundrels earlier this year. And I can't wait. I can't wait. If I remember correctly, this comes out at the end of November. I want to say November 28th, but that could be wrong. Okay. Question number 5. Biggest disappointment. I don't usually like to talk about books I don't like. I talk about them in my weekly vlogs when they bother me and I have read them, because I just talk about everything that's going on in my life, mostly pinned on reading in my weekly vlogs. But I had to give it to Truth or Dare by Brianna Ocampo, because this is one where I was really let down by the blurb. I thought it was going to be a super cute, quick, steamy, friends to lovers romance with like mutual pining situation, and it very quickly got into the steam, but it very quickly was like from the go a menage, and nothing mentioned in the blurb about another man. All of the steam was as a threesome, and then, you know, the ending was just like this other guy just kind of went off into the world, and this is what he does, I guess, is he has threesomes with people and he makes them via threesome, and it was just not what I was expecting. And I didn't believe that they were, with the way that the relationship between the two characters who get the HEA is set up in the beginning. I feel like we didn't really work through the issues on why they weren't getting together in the first place, and why there was that misconnection romantically almost when it came to changing the way their relationship worked. And I feel like when we got to the end, the fact that they just had a threesome with this guy wasn't enough, and I wanted more delving into that. Even though this is supposed to be like a quick steamy read, if we're gonna set up such a thing in the beginning, like, I needed it really addressed, and this was a disappointment. But a lot of the times because of the blurb, and also all of the reviews for Amazon that I saw on Amazon for this when I downloaded it off KU also didn't mention a menage. So, and I'm someone, I'm not yucking anybody's yum, but I don't like multiple partners. I like 2 people. That is what I like. I don't like why choose. I don't like menage, poly. I get that it's a thing. I get that it's real, and you know, people can have viable relationships with multiple partners and it works for them, but I'm not that way. And so I really struggle reading those sort of things. But we will move on. So at number 6, the biggest surprise. I had to give this to Sink or Swim by Maz Maddox. This is the second book in her Relic series. Now, I liked the first book. I thought it was fun, and I was expecting to like this one as well. I was like, oh, this will be another fun dinosaur shifter paranormal MM romance. This book has moments that have stuck with me since I've read it. Them in their dinosaur forms with Baha, like, courting Jackson's dinosaur with a shark. It like lives rent free in my head. I can't tell you how many moments a week I think about that scene. It has really stuck with me. It was just so cute. It like grumpy sunshine, forced proximity, dinosaur shifters. Like I said, I have not picked up the third book so far in this series because I feel like my expectations and my love for this one is so much more than the first one. Like, I don't want to be too disappointed in the third book if it doesn't quite live up to Sink or Swim. And so I'm like trying to hold off until Sink or Swim just kind of recedes a little bit in my mind and still isn't quite so present. But I do plan on finishing the series, but Sink or Swim, I did not expect to have it like shoot to the top of like a favorites list at all. Okay, number 7, a favorite new author. Now, I did mention her very briefly before, but I'm going to give it to M.L. Philpott. Like I mentioned earlier, she does the Fractured Ever After series. This is The Hunt and Illusion. This is book 1. I picked these up for the Mafia Romance Readathon. I did do a reading vlog. I'll pop that up there. She is a Canadian author, and she writes dark romance so far. That is all she's published. She has 2 series out, and this is the second series. This is mafia romance fairy tale retellings. The first book is Cinderella. The second book is Sleeping Beauty. The third book is Beauty and the Beast. The fourth book that just dropped earlier this month is Rapunzel. And then she just announced the 5th book's title and cover. And that is going to be the Little Mermaid retelling, which I've been waiting for since like book 1. And then we still know that there is a book 6. Book 6 has been written, but book 6 title is just the like letters for it. It's like TSIS or something like that. And she's waiting to announce that until book 5 drops, because book 5 will lead into book 6. So they are different couples for each book, but there is a little bit of an overarching plot. So I do recommend you read these in order. I loved the first book. I liked this. I loved the second book, but I liked the first book a little bit more. The second book had a little bit too much angst for my preference. But like I said, I just started book 3 because I saw book 4 recently dropped, and I was like, I still got to read book 3. And I'm 20% into it, and I am loving it so far. I am super excited to find these. I love fairy tale retellings, and the mafia vibe is so well done. And there's a lot of little nods to specifically the Disney movies, and it just, every time I see that like little Easter egg, I'm just like, oh my gosh. And then like when I put things together that associate with the movies, like I totally didn't realize when we saw Maurice in the first couple books that, you know, Maurice is Belle's father. Until I started book 3, and I was like, wait, Maurice is Belle's father. Maurice has been there all along as a soldier in the mafia. I'm like, why did I not put it together that Maurice was going to lead us to Belle? And I was so, as you can tell, these books make me very excited, and I am super happy. I started following ML on all of the socials and everything. She's also, because I mean, she's Canadian, so I mean, I know not all Canadians are hockey fans, but she has posted about hockey too. So I was talking to her a little bit on Insta about hockey, because I myself am a huge hockey fan. So I'm hyping up ML Philpott. If you enjoy mafia romance, if you enjoy fairy tale retellings, I don't know, these books just tickle something in my brain just right, and I am obsessed, and I definitely want to get these in paperback. But new favorite author for 2023, ML Philpott, is at the top of my list. Okay, so number 8, newest fictional crush. Now, I don't really crush on characters. I don't really have like book boyfriends or girl crushes or anything like that. That's not something I really keep track of. But I kind of had to think on this one and see like what male character really, I guess it didn't have to be male, but I chose male because that's, you know, my leanings. And someone that really stuck out to me was Wyatt Olson, who's from Up in the Air. This is by Dr. Rebecca Sharp. And I saw this book. It was an ad on Instagram. And it was one of those ads where it was like, if you like this Disney TV movie, then read this book. And the movie that it had was Motocross, which was my favorite Disney movie growing up, where if you have not seen it, it is twins, and they are motocross riders, and her brother is injured, and so she cuts her hair and she takes his place. So, you know, thinking back on that, because I love that movie so much as a kid, probably makes sense why I really enjoy that trope. So I was like, okay, I checked it out right away. I was like, this ad got me. And I really enjoyed this book. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. Olsen is our hero, and this isn't motocross, this is snowboarding. So that was super fun because it was set up, I think it was in Aspen, in Colorado, but it was set in Colorado, which was fun. And he was just, you know, he's kind of reaching that age where he's like, do I retire from snowboarding? And I don't really know what to do because snowboarding's been my whole life. Do I want to go into teaching? Do I want to do like a snowboarding resort type of thing? And so he's really lost in what he wants to do with his life and do next. And I don't know. I really loved him as a character. I think, you know, he just really was there for our heroine and just really was really honest in his feelings that like he wanted to get to know her and he wanted to make it work. And yeah, I really loved Wyatt. So if you have not read this book and you also loved Motocross, the movie, definitely check it out. It didn't quite give the same, like, it definitely has the same, like, overall theme of dressing up as your twin brother when he's injured, because she's also a snowboarder. But yeah, it was great. It was great. I loved it. Number 9, newest favorite character. Now, this one, I just had to give it to Dina from the Innkeeper Chronicles by Ilona Andrews. This was the first time I read this series, was this year as a part of the Ilona Andrews read-along. And I love Dina. She is a strong character, but she's strong in a different way than like Nevada from Hidden Legacy or Kate from Kate Daniels. Like, Dina is almost a softer kind of strong, and I just love how very like sure of herself and her place in the world is. And she's just, I'm an innkeeper. This is my inn. This is what I do. And she does have strength and power in her magic, but she also is very caring towards people. And not that Nevada and Kate aren't, but the way that Dina is different in her care, and it just really speaks to me. And Dina is definitely, I think, my number 2 favorite heroine from Ilona Andrews. I really, really connected with her. And you know, another gush about Ilona Andrews. This is more of a sci-fi, cozy, I've heard some people kind of call it a cozy series. Not necessarily mysteries, but like that type of coziness series. And this is like sci-fi, urban fantasy, and it's magical. And I can't tout Ilona Andrews enough. But Dina is definitely one of my new favorite characters of all time. Okay, number 10, a book that made you cry. Now, I cry at almost every book. I am very, very easy to make cry, both for sadness and for happiness, or just if a character's breaking down, I find myself crying. I am a sympathetic crier. I cry to TV shows when people are crying, even if I don't feel sad for them. If I see people crying, I will start crying. It's a problem, but I had to give it to The Devilish Mr. Danvers by Vivian Lorette. This is the second book in her Rakes of Fallow Hall series. And our heroine in this, Headley, her backstory and just the way that her family treats her is horrendous. She's in a very tragic carriage accident where a girl, her like best friend, a young girl, I think she was 8 years old when it happened, dies in front of her, and Headley is, you know, covered in her blood because they were both in the carriage, and is, you know, traumatized from that and can't speak and shakes when she goes near horses and can't ride in a carriage, and, you know, is definitely suffering from like PTSD. And because of, you know, this situation and her being unable to function, as well as just she was in shock afterwards and like stopped talking for a while, her family considers her mad and locks her up in the attic and pretends that she doesn't exist. So she learns to be invisible and not be seen. And it was just so heartbreaking for her, and then to see the way that her family treats her, even now when she is mostly functioning, she is able to talk, she still struggles around horses, she still kind of has panic attacks, and when she's near a carriage she still kind of won't ride in the carriages. But Headley really broke my heart. And she is the younger sister of who Mr. Danvers was engaged to be married, and then her older sister ran off with some American like beaver trapper or something. So we've got like ex-fiance's younger sister. But this book really definitely has stuck with me for Headley, for a character that just really went through it. And so I'd have to give it to this, because this book really made me cry, because I was just so touched by the emotions and like so happy, and cried happy tears when her and what is his name? Rafe really got their HEA, and I just felt so happy for them. Okay, book number 11, a book that made you happy. I mean, most of these books I've talked about have made me happy. But for one that I have not mentioned, an author I have not mentioned yet, another one of my favorite authors, I had to give it to Elfshot by Alessa Thorne. This is the third book in her Ironwood series, which is a spinoff of her Wrath of the Fae series. Alessa Thorne is very bingeable for me, so I have to be very careful to not binge her, because I love being able to pull up a book of hers I haven't read and read it at any moment. Elfshot was so great. Our heroine in this loves Lord of the Rings, is like super into like elf culture, if we want to call it that. And then her fated mate ends up being Arland, I think, who is like the prince of the light elves, and she's kind of known for being the backup Ironwood. In her family, Ironwoods are like magical hunters, and she's kind of known for being the backup, and she's not known for like being super like fighty or super, like she's always just good as a backup, so she's always kind of in the back, and she feels underappreciated by her family, and that sometimes, she does feel like she's kind of invisible. But the way that this is done, and the way that Arland really just sees her and sees her for who she really is. But I also love that the way this ends is he's just like, I understand. And, not everything's going to be better with the way you see yourself just because I love you. But we'll work on it together. And I will tell you every day how amazing I think you are and how much I love you. And I love it when things aren't magically healed about yourself when you're in love, even in a fated mate situations. And like I said, Alessa Thorne is one of my favorite authors. And with the Lord of the Rings, like Alessa Thorne is very nerdy as well. So, she's definitely one of my nerdy authors that I love to follow. And, just the way that the Lord of the Rings stuff was weaved into this was just so magical, and it spoke to my nerd heart, and this book really did just make me happy, because I didn't realize we were gonna go like super Lord of the Ringsy with it, and we did, and I was here for it on top of everything else that we see happen. And Alessa Thorne is another, she's a KU author, I want to say is Australian, but I cannot hype up Alessa Thorne enough. I am obsessed with her books. She writes mostly fantasy, but she does have a like minor paranormal series that I absolutely love as well. So if you have not read Alessa Thorne, please read Alessa Thorne. Okay, we're almost here. Question number 12. Most beautiful book that you've bought. This was hard because I've bought a lot of books, and technically I would give it to the Stay Spell hardback series that was on Kickstarter recently, but I don't have them to show you. So technically those would be the most beautiful books that I have bought this year so far, but I don't have them yet, which is fine, they will come, and I will do a special gushing unboxing of them when they come because I cannot wait. But so I looked through the books that I had bought this year, and I picked out a series because I couldn't choose which was my favorite between the three. And so I had to give it to E.J. Mello's Musai series. So here's book 1, Song of the Forever Rain. These are fantasy, but the heroines in this series are sisters, and they're magical, kind of has musical elements to it, which is super fun. So there's book 1. Book 2, Dance of a Burning Sea. Aren't they gorgeous? And then the third book is Symphony for a Deadly Throne. I mean, if I had to choose, it'd probably be either this book or book 1, but I love all of them equally, and I think they're just absolutely gorgeous, so I had to give it to those ones. Since I don't have the physical copies of the hardback stay as well. So, final question. We are almost done. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? Now, I do have plans to finish or catch up in a couple of long-running series. 2 of the 3 I haven't technically started my reread or continued on in since 2023 started, so I'm slacking there. But a last-minute kind of addition that popped up for me when I finished reading, I'm losing it, but the last book in Vivian Lorette's Mating Habits of Scoundrels series, and when It Had to Be a Duke was like teased at the end of that it was coming at the end of the year, I was like, oh my gosh, what better time to go through and reread the first few series by Vivian Lorette. So I was like, okay, so I went back to her first series and I'm reading them through. There are some of them that I haven't finished, or I haven't read before, so it is a mix of rereads and new reads, which is great. I don't know if I'm going to reread the Mating Habits of Scoundrel series, because I have, for that series, after book 1, when book 2 came out, I reread book 1, and then when book 3 came out, I reread books 1 and 2, and then book 3, and then 4, I did the same thing with the first 3, and then 5, I did this, so, you know, I've reread those books so many times, and I still know them super well. I might reread maybe the first 1 or 2, but we'll see. But I wanted to get through reread and read all of the rest of her other series. So, we have this book I have not read. This is going to be a new read for me. This is book 3 in the Rakes of Fallow Hall series. I do plan on picking this up at the end of July and getting this done. But this is The Maddening Lord Montwood. So this is a new book I still have to read. And then we have her Misadventures in Matchmaking series. So we've got book 1, How to Forget a Duke. This one will be a reread for me. And then book 2 is 10 Kisses to Scandal. This will be a new book for me. And then we have, what is this? The Rogue to Ruin. And this is the 3rd book in the Misadventures in Matchmaking. And this is also a new to read to me. However, this is the last full-length novel that I will have in her backlist. I didn't grab it, but I also plan on rereading the series that was published after that one, which is Sins for All Seasons, I think. And that one is another trilogy. She tends to write 3, at least before Misadventure, or no. Oh my gosh. The Mating Habits of Scoundrels, that series had 5 books, but all of her other series have 3 books in them. And Sin for a Season of Sins, something like that. That trilogy I have all read. However, there is a 3.5 novella in that series that I have not read. So technically, that would be the last backlist book I haven't read, but full-length novel, this one would be the last one. So I do also plan on reading that. I don't know why I didn't grab those books when I came in here, but those are books that I would like to get through by November 28th, really is what it is. I'm having so much fun going through them. I'm trying to pace myself so I don't just get them all done right away. But I am excited to catch back up in Vivian Lorette's backlist and be ready for the drop of It Had to Be a Duke. I cannot wait. I cannot push Vivian Lorette enough at you. If you are a modern historical romance author, she is one of my favorite authors. She just hit something in me where it doesn't take very long. It takes, I mean, on most of her books, I am in it from the first paragraph. And there's just something about her writing that really speaks to me, really makes me feel swoony, and it just really feels quintessential historical romance to me. And I wish more people would read her because I really, really love her books. As you can tell, I own all of her books in paperback. So there we have it. The 13 questions for the mid-year freak out tag. If you have done the freak out tag, let me know down below. I definitely would love to check it out if I haven't already. If you'd like to leave me a comment down below, let me know. Why don't you answer question 13 for me as well? What books do you really want to read by the end of the year? I'd love to see what's on people's radar for books they'd like to pick up. If you'd like to just leave me a emoji, why don't we'll do something green for the Road to Ruin. Otherwise, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you all soon with another video.